Good morning, everyone. I'm Beth Brady, and I am the chairman of the board for the We Are All Human Foundation, as well as a strategic advisor. I also am the CMO at Chief Outsiders. I am here, not Claudia Edelman, because I'm filling in for her. While many of you know, her mother has COVID, and she is off taking care of her mom as she should be. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to her. Please keep her and her mother and her whole family in your thoughts. So let's get at it today. Today on this daily webinar, we have a really exciting topic today, and I think this one is incredibly appropriate, and it's on courageous leadership. And we have two very courageous women that are joining us. First is Lisbeth Ceballos, who is the VP of Housekeeping at Motel 6. So we'll get some interesting comments from her about being a courageous leader, but also, how do you approach this time? And then the second person is Brittany Chiang, and she is the CEO of an organization called Flatter Leadership. And she and Lisbeth work together to be able to build their own leadership, but also to build leadership for others. So they're here to share their thoughts with us today. So welcome, ladies. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So let me get right on it. So Brittany, I know you and Lisbeth work closely together, developing leaders, inspiring others, and being such a young professional CEO. What is the key to your success?
Well, thanks, Beth. Thanks for having us. We're really happy to be here today talking with the Hispanic Star organization. Lisbeth and I work together developing leaders at Flatter Inc., which is a Latino-owned small business. We're a federal contracting firm with customers at the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and then we have some private commercial customers as well. The way we approach leadership with the federal government is we really try to remove the mystery surrounding what makes a great leader, and to let people know that it's a skill just like anything else that can be practiced and mastered, and everyone has that potential leader, inside themselves that they can bring out. And we believe that courage is the secret to really activating that leadership and being a great leader and doing all the things you want to do. And I think the same thing can be said about success in business. There's no secret to it. It's just a matter of working hard and having the courage to wake up every morning and do the scary things. Like this webinar today. This is my first webinar.
Well, you're doing great.
Thanks. It's just as simple as that. And I think Lisbeth and I have fun every day, kind of unlocking that knowledge within people and just passing along that message of encouragement and seeing where people take it in their own lives and within their own organizations, like the training we do at Army and Air Force, and even within our own team, we see that spark, light, and it's really fun to see. And especially during this whole COVID crisis, I think it's really important during a pandemic that, as business owners, we take that responsibility of caring for people and really kind of being sensitive and doing everything we can to take care of the people within your organization. And at Flatter, we call it our familial culture. We really try to embed that into our training. We require mentorship at our company. We require that we build leaders from within and don't recruit from the outside if at all possible, to really encourage that leadership and mentorship in our own organization. And some things we're doing to kind of take care of people during this crisis is, visiting clients, dropping off hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes before all the client sites were closed, and then offering a flexible work schedule and telework. We mailed care packages to employees and their families to make sure they had hand sanitizer, and also crayons and coloring books for those people who are, homeschooling their children all of a sudden. So I think, obviously COVID-19 has disrupted a lot of lives and businesses, but we'll come out the other end stronger than before, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more time to test courageous leadership than right now. And those that really are big, strong leaders and are courageous are going to make a difference, and they're going to help move us forward, because we're never going to go back again. It's going to be a whole new world when we emerge on the other side of this, and a lot of things are going to change. So with that, I'm going to turn it over and ask a question to Lisbeth. I think we can move ahead a couple slides here. Yes, there we go. So Lisbeth, wow, Motel 6 housekeeping. That has to be one of the most, right now, crazy places to be working, with everything going on around sanitation and health and, you know, just the whole works. And no better place to like test your ability to be a courageous leader. So talk to us a little bit about, one, about, you know, courageous leadership in this time for you personally, and what you are doing to be able to keep people positive, for one, to keep people safe, for two, and keep people hopeful, because that's what a courageous leader does.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, it has been kind of pretty intense the last few weeks, last 5 now. I am like Brittany. The first thing is always learning, right? The courageous part is just a skill, like we always say. You know, we forget that, and everybody struggles with change. I've struggled with change, but you know, we have heard something that is kind of a dichotomy, right? Hispanics are being disproportionately impacted by COVID, yet Hispanics are also the working ones right now in housekeeping. We have over 60% of our housekeeping population is Hispanic, and restaurants, supermarkets, etc. So kind of keeping us open. I tell you, I drive my courage, I think, inspiration from our housekeeping team. It's amazing how many people we have right now that just still delivers with a smile and tries to make our guests feel safe and comfortable, you know? And the reason why I have this slide up here is because that's me in most of those hugs. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I miss hugging my father. His birthday is in 87 in less than 2 weeks. And he says, all I wish I could have is a big hug. And I told him, well, that's not gonna happen. So we gotta come up with something else. But I miss hugging our employees for anniversaries. I miss my teammates. I mean, the leadership of Motel 6 has been outstanding in terms of really living our values of care. It's really, really intense. But anyway, I've reflected a lot on everything that we're going through. And one of the things that there are 3 key points that I've held on to and that I hope to convey. And I call it my message of hope. Mm-hmm. But Nina Vaca said last week, it is time for reinvention, you know? And right now I'm gonna talk about my story, but I don't think it's any different than most of us, right? I came to this country at 17 from Venezuela. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the language, yet here I am, you know? I mean, you reinvent yourself every day when you're an immigrant. Sometimes too much, because I have to say that we have the tendency to try to fit in. And there was a point in my life that the message is that I realized that my genuine, my fire, my boldness, and is the best that I can bring to the table, and helps tremendously in times like these, that you just go and move. You don't think you have time to paralyze, you know? The thing is that I don't think I'm any exception. I think that I am one more story of many of immigrants that have built this country. And whether it's first generation, second generation, it doesn't matter. I honestly think this is the kind of leadership that is going to be needed for our recovery. The second point is, I was listening to David Ceballos on Monday, and he said, there is no new normal. That's not real. I mean, normal is comfort. And in order for us to move, we know that we have to genuinely be dynamic, agile, and live in comfort, because this is going to be changing every day for a long time. We don't know what it's going to look like before it gets to be normal again. So I think we Hispanics in general, I always tell this to Brittany, but sometimes we're too humble and we forget how courageous we can be, you know, which is more, what could be more uncomfortable, think about it, than not knowing what's coming next when you get to a country, not knowing the language, not knowing what it is, but somehow in a foreign country, we have made it. It doesn't matter where you came from. We figured it out. So we're very dynamic. We just need to remember that. I believe that we are more ready than a lot of people, just because of some of our typical cultural norms, you know. By nature, we're collaborative, and that's what we're looking for in this new world, the new dynamic world. We all need to collaborate more. We are loyal. We're very optimistic. We're always looking for the bright side of things. I mean, we need that today more than ever. And lastly, I think we're very genuinely dedicated to our jobs. I mean, with pride, and to our families, you know. So the biggest thing is I want to make sure that people remember to take care of themselves, because sometimes we forget that, you know. So the third point is, the last one is related to resilience, you know, our ability to move into action. We all have our bad moments. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and say that I'm always this, you know, happy and smiley. I mean, I tell people sometimes I cry once a week, twice a week. It depends on the day. But I then remember that I have to shake it off and stand tall when you think about whether it was from Europe or from Mexico. But, you know, a lot of people have come here. What more courageous that can be, you know? And that's what I hold on to remember, that people right now needs hope, needs positivity, they need smiles. They don't need to know, you know, that we are also devastated, you know. But I just want to bring that message of hope that we need. It's our time. It's our time to unleash that courage that is inside of us. Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget the history of immigrants in this country. And we got this, you know. A soltar la valentía, like I always said. We got this. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. You know, I know you referred to David Sable, who was out on Monday, and for those that didn't hear him, he also said something else that I think is really resonant. He talked about ingenuity as opposed to innovation. And innovation takes a lot of money, is how he described it. Ingenuity is what built this country. And frankly, ingenuity is what Hispanics are incredibly well known for, right? They've come here and they've, without resources, have not only survived, but thrived. And so we all have to remember this concept of ingenuity, which is another really great way for us to think about moving forward. So my next question I'm going to throw out to Brittany, which is, all right, you know, we're in the midst of this crisis, and it really has disproportionately impacted Hispanics because of the type of work they do. You know, a lot of them being frontline workers and making sure our country is going to get back to health. But a lot of them also being in businesses that have shut down. They are at great risk. So how in all of this, what is the way that people can move into action as we go into recovery? How can we get ourselves out of sort of, you know, this crippling fear and move into action?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question. And I think especially now during the quarantine and stay-at-home orders, where, you know, your schedule may have been disrupted, you're not commuting to work, you're not worrying about what you were going to wear in the morning. You kind of have this space for, you know, mindfulness and planning. And so what Lisbeth and I kind of want to do is encourage everyone to do a little bit of self-reflection and planning during this time about what's next, what are you going to do next, and to make that next step even more meaningful and impactful, after you've done some planning. So I've sent some templates actually to the Hispanic Star Marketplace. So everyone who's on the line can actually, whip out a journal and use some of the flatter templates that general officers in the Air Force and the Army are also using. But if you have any questions about it, just feel free to reach out to Lisbeth or myself. We'd be happy to help you out. But I kind of just want to run through this. What we call here is the House of Courage, or House of Leadership, which the foundation of it is courage. Which I think we have an abundance of as a Latino community. I think we have that fire and those guts that it takes to really pursue these plans. And then kind of walking from the left to the right of these 4 pillars that hold up the house, the first being your principles. So there's no right or wrong answer to any of these 4 pillars that make this house. Everyone has a different answer, but what are your principles? What's important to you? I'm a mother of 4. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and my principles are, how do I lead them towards God, towards that higher calling, whatever your moral compass might be telling you. The next one is TCE, the technical, cognitive, and emotional skills. And again, there's no right answer, but this is asking yourself, do I want to be highly technically competent? Do I want to be the best software developer in the world? Or do I want to be more cognitively intelligent, where I'm working on decision-making and analytics and planning, things like that? And then the third one is emotional. I'm going to abandon the computer altogether, stop doing code, and actually worry about the emotional health of my team. How's everybody doing? You don't have to necessarily do work on a computer to be productive. You can take someone out to lunch and do some mentorship and development. So kind of looking at where you are today, are you technically proficient? Are you moving into some cognitive development, or are you 100% emotional? I struggle sometimes with, I like to do work in finance and accounting, and I have to tell myself, leave that behind and worry about your team today. So spending time in those areas that you need to develop is important. The next one is work, family, self-balance. We've been thrown a real curveball here. As you might have been thrown homeschooling, caring for your children, and you might also be working from home on top of that. So telling yourself what is important to you between WFS, is it family that's most important? If so, your time and energy that you're spending in that category should be, proportional to the importance there. And then visionary, this is kind of looking to the future of where you want to be. And we scare people a little bit because we ask people, where do you see yourself in 30 years? And, that's kind of a scary question of, gosh, 30 years is forever away, but that's your retirement, that's your children going to college, that's, what do you ideally see yourself spending your time on after maybe you don't have to work for your full-time income anymore, and then kind of working yourself back to today, 10 years, 1 year, and then right now during this quarantine, what you can be doing to move yourself towards that vision. So we've been doing a lot of that planning at Flatter, and personally I've been thinking a lot about that, and we've seen some of the impacts that these leadership development experiences have had on adults. And so our other owner, JR, and I have kind of thought, gosh, what would this look like if we pointed it at younger kids in like a middle school type age group? And so we're developing a leadership course for middle schoolers and their parents to start unlocking some of these ideas earlier in life so that they're even more prone to success in the future. So that's kind of where we're heading with this House of Leadership.
Great. It's really great. I know you've offered help. I think that's the next slide here, to anybody who wants it. Lisbeth, you want to just talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Like we were talking about, she's going to put some of the materials, obviously, for free. But it's like, like I said at the beginning, I know that we got this spark. I know that we are full of that passion and that fire. Let's take time and remember all that make us great human beings. That's it. And take advantage of this time. Tell us, what can we do to help you move forward? But it's a great time to reflect on things like, who am I, where I want to go, etc. You know, I do that every day. You asked me earlier about, you know, how we're dealing at Motel 6. And it's like every day is, well, most hotel companies, of course, close by being limited service. We try to leave the light on wherever we could. And of course, with choices like we chose 50% occupancy at the time so that we could have a room in between, that kind of thing, so that we can have for first responders, etc. It is just, our leadership is fantastic. We meet every day, 2-3 times a day. Actually, jokingly, I say we gotta go back to the office so we can work less hours. But it's whatever it takes to, you know, to keep going and to keep people smiling and being transparent on the communication and, you know, just living the values. It's like, I'm very, you know, I re-energized by our hourly team members, let's put it that way. And I think that's what, you know, courageous leadership is all about, you know?
Yeah. And you know what, you're absolutely right. And as I said in the beginning, there's no place where it's probably more prominent right now than in the hospitality industry. I have a son who's associated with the Carnival cruise business.
Oh,
And,
wow.
you know, they've
Yes.
got their own challenges, but I believe that the ingenuity of this country and people like yourselves are going to we're going to come out of this with invention and ideas and problem solving that we
Yes.
never even thought of. And so it's going to make us a better place, but it's going to take courageous leadership. So this has been incredibly wonderful this morning to have this, what I consider an uplifting conversation, because sometimes we hear all this negative news, but people need to know that they're in control of where we go from here. And courage is a huge piece of it. Leadership's another piece of it. So I thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
I encourage everybody to tap into the links that were provided
Sure.
in the chat function, or reach out if you need to. We want to once again say to Claudia that our thoughts and prayers are with you and your
Absolutely.
mother and your family. And we look forward to everyone being back here tomorrow for another great conversation with Peter Georgescu, who is also an immigrant and has a really fascinating story. So please join us tomorrow, and thank you, everyone. And thank you, Brittany and Lisbeth, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Beth.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
It was our pleasure. Bye-bye.